everybody, I'm Connor. My trusty sidekick Doug is away from the office today. I think he's waiting in line for Weird Al Yankovic tickets. Can't be sure. But what we're lacking in Doug's, we are more than making up for with talented guests. I am on location today at the Pierce County Skills Center. I am joined by Ian Lewis. He's a video game development teacher, and two of his students, Nick and Kale. So welcome, everybody.
Thank you for having us.
Cool to be here.
So the reason I'm here, besides just you guys being interesting fellas, is you had an amazing experience this summer. So Ian, first, can you give us a little bit of background on the arcade project, which is one of the projects that you run, and what you guys did this summer that was so cool?
So our arcade project has been an annual thing. We started back pre-COVID, I believe 2018, and we just get a couple of other programs around in the Skill Center to work with us as the game development class to build these unique and original arcade machines. And this year was pretty significant because we decided to show off a couple of those machines and the games inside at PAX West in Seattle at the end of August.
And for those who don't know, Nick, what is PAX West?
PAX West is basically this video game convention where a lot of people gather together and see the things that the indie world and the AAA world are working on this year or releasing this year, get a bunch of merch, and just hang out and talk about games with a bunch of games people.
That's amazing. And so let's take it back a little bit to the arcade project, because this is one of the unique things that's available to students in our district at the Pierce County Skills Center is you all come together with several different classes and you make physical. This isn't just about coding. This isn't just about the game on the screen. I'm looking now at two amazing video game builds. They're colorful and shiny. They look like they belong in an arcade. So it's multifaceted. So Kale, tell us a little bit about what interested you to begin with about getting involved in the video game development program.
The program itself interested me because I personally wanted to get into the development career path of video games. And I've always wanted to try to, become a developer myself. And I came across the Skill Center at some point, and I thought that was a perfect way for me to get my step into the door and try to get myself down this career path.
Nick, what was your favorite part of the entire process of taking, like I said, this is coming from nothing. This is from just a thought in all your brains to a fully fledged arcade-style video game. What was your favorite part of the process?
I think my favorite part of just the entire video game development process is retrospection. It's looking back on what it was before and then looking at what it is now and just seeing how much progress you've made. I have an example. I have a trailer of like a tech demo of the game on my computer that's like 5 months old. You're just on a boat. You're on a PNG boat that was made in MS Paint, and you're a white square, and there's only one fish in the ocean. But now we are a whole game, and we went to PAX and we went to Steam. That's a huge step that I wouldn't imagine going from that to PAX.
It truly is. It sounds like an amazing accomplishment. This is the type of stuff that adults in the industry strive for. You guys are high school kids. What was that like going up to PAX with your completed games and kind of presenting those to an audience that I would imagine they don't really care if you're high schoolers. They're just interested, is this a good game or not? What was that like for you? For
me, I think I can probably speak for my team on this one. It was a very surreal and very weird feeling because it felt like one of my teammates actually mentioned this. It felt like we snuck in a way because we had these exhibitor badges and we could just kind of go where people couldn't at the end of the day, basically, and at the start of the day.
So you're kind of fanning out as you're there. You're actual full-on participants in this, and you're still kind of fanning out. That's amazing.
100%.
Yeah, we were fanning out. We spent a lot of money on merchandise.
So, Ian, the arcade project, as you mentioned, has been around for quite a while here at PCSC. But what is new, and we've been talking about a little bit, is that trip to PAX West in Seattle. And we've tried to kind of give people an idea how big of a deal it is. It's just a huge deal. How did that idea of not just making the games, but kind of bringing them to market and bringing them to PAX, how did that come to pass?
So the biggest goal for me when I took over this program was I saw a lot of the other programs here at PCSC and how they connect to industry very directly. A lot of jobs for kids right out of high school, which is kind of the dream. A college student myself, student debt is a big deal. And so having an opportunity for kids to circumvent that and get right into the industry is just a huge allure about the skill center and why I love everything that we do here. But the video game development industry as a whole has been very shy of high school talent, or really any talent that doesn't have like a degree or proven products that are developed. So I came in with the mission of let's get noticed and let's give these students an opportunity to enter that industry space. And I started with the idea that let's try to get those industry contacts going in the AAA space, like big budget game development. And we started that. But there was still, as I engaged with those folks, they were just kind of like, well, it's really cool what you guys are doing, but, you're a financial gamble. It's the salaries that we pay people in those positions are really high for a high school student with barely any work experience. They might have some good products developed in class, but, we want someone more tenured. So I said, all right, well, let's just make our own way if nobody wants to hang with us, I guess. So last school year, back in October, I met with our Skill Center director, Scott Martin, and the usual teachers that are involved with the project. And we were just sitting at a table talking about okay, what's this arcade project going to look like this year? Yada, yada, going through the motion. And I just blurted out, what if we just went to PAX? What if we really put our feet to the fire this year, got the kids doing some really amazing stuff, just innovative stuff, and show it off on the world stage. I'd been to PAX before twice as an attendee, and the scale of it always blew my mind. But I was like, I want us to be able to just put our foot in that closing door. I want us to be seen as a real viable, I guess, production company in a weird way as a high school. I want these kids to come out with a good product.
So the actual process of getting there as kind of exhibitors rather than just as attendees, was that difficult? Did you have to meet the right people? How did that go?
So I just started spamming out emails to people and filling out forms that I didn't even know if I needed to fill them out or if I just needed to send emails, whatever. And I just sent out a blast and I was like, we want to be there. And eventually I got some okay, that's cool, that's cute that you want to be there, you're a high school, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, okay, well, no, we really want to be there. And they were like, okay, well, why? And then I showed them what we worked on and they were like, oh, okay, yeah, let's get you guys here. So then that started to accelerate the process a little bit more over summer. We were first-time registrants, so that was an interesting process. And then by I want to say the first week in August, we were pretty much booked and ready to go. And we were just managing logistics of how everybody was going to get there, who's going to be at the booth, certain times, stuff like that. And then even then, when we showed up, we were like, oh my God, we are horribly underprepared because we did not anticipate the whole concept of booth set dressing and trying to just visually market your booth we were in a really great position, but marketing that position amongst a crowd of just fantastic talent and developers and games, we were like, oh my God, how do we stand out from this? So we definitely learned a lot. But yeah, the process to get there was interesting, long, but we made it happen.
Like anything good, it takes some work.
Of course.
So take me back to being at PAX. You're sitting there with your exhibition. I assume you've got your game there and people have access to it and they're playing it in front of you. So you're getting real time kind of, this is lame, or, oh, wow, this is amazing.
Feedback.
What was going through your head? I imagine the nerves must have been pretty intense. So we'll start with you, Kale, and then go with you, Nick. What were you feeling as you were watching people play the game that you've worked so hard on in front of you?
I've got to say, that is actually one of the things that I never really mentioned, but I definitely had my heart was racing. I was really scared by any feedback. I mean, I was accepting any feedback, even if it was, bad or, as long as it was critical and gave us actual feedback. I was accepting anything really, because I think it's a better way to better myself when I make maybe the next game or the next big project. It kind of makes me think about those sort of things that they give feedback on. And it was really, really weird kind of as well, seeing random people I've never met in my life, just playing a thing that I've created with my own hard work and time I put into it.
Yeah, and Nick, I imagine it's kind of your baby. You know, you've taken this thing from nothing and you've raised it up, and now it's a full-fledged game, and now you're watching strangers play it. What was it like for you?
Okay, well, first of all, don't discredit the other people in the team.
Oh, absolutely. Shout out to everyone who had a hand in this, but for you being there, what was that like for you?
Okay, me being there, it really felt like there's no other way to describe it than like imposter syndrome. It's like, why am I here? I'm not supposed to be here. There's like actual video games, Baldur's Gate 3,
yeah.
like across the room.
Kingdom Come Deliverance, Stalker 2, like all of these massive AAA titles that haven't even, well, Baldur's Gate came out, but the other two, people are eagerly anticipating those, and we're in the same room with them, literally.
I felt the exact same way. There was just so many AAA games as well on the other side of the building.
So I guess the big question is, what was the reaction like? What kind of feedback did you guys get?
It was surprisingly positive. There were a lot of people that enjoyed the game and got the controls really quickly.
So Ian, why is it important to do things like this, to kind of take these kids out of their comfort zone, to go to these kind of, I don't know, shoot for the stars type of events? What do you think that your students are getting out of that?
The important part in this, honestly, is getting visibility, because the biggest part, like, game development has grown so rapidly over the past even like just couple of years, but since I was in high school, it's a totally different space, like entirely. And getting noticed in that field, there are a lot of people, typically adults, that will just go out and, you know, they'll mash a couple of buttons on a keyboard, smack something together and put it on Steam for like $1, $2. Those games are saturating the marketplace. And everybody's trying to get their stuff noticed, and they're trying to contact streamers like, hey, play our game on stream, get us marketed, blah, blah, blah. So the work that we do in class stands out from so much of that. Not just to mention that it's high school students working on this, but like the quality of the work is stellar, and it's good, and it's fun, and it's worth money. So it's important to take advantage of events like this so that work gets the appropriate amount of eyes, so that people can reference, can say like, oh, that looks really cool. And then say they're working on another game now, say that comes out and they're like, oh, wait a minute, I remember these guys from PAX before with their previous game. The more that they get out in front of those eyes, the more that they'll get remembered, and the more not just customers will know them, but the rest of the industry will start to recognize them as real players. And that's what I want for I'm not kidding when I say that, my entire class. I want that for everybody. It's important to take advantage of those events and just let people know that we're here. You know, we're going to be here.
And Nick, the game is live. It's available for purchase. It's out in the world. What are your hopes for that? What do you want it to do? Are you looking at this as kind of just putting your toe in the water, or are you hoping this game blows up and you become a millionaire because of this?
So really, being a millionaire would be way bigger of a hassle than any of us could deal with. I'm really, more of the perspective I have on this game is like proof that we can do something real and then put it on the internet and we get some money and prove ourselves.
If I may step in,
yeah.
My idea of this is I wanted this to put onto Steam, because I had the main role of putting it onto Steam. I did all of the paperwork and, you know, all the forms, and basically put the entire thing onto Steam myself. My reason of doing so was to get our names out as a team, of trying to build sort of a little bit of fame, to show that we as high schoolers can do things just as good, if not better, than what some college or some adults can do in the industry nowadays.
Absolutely. And throughout this process, I'm sure you've learned so many countless things that it would be impossible to name them all. But let's just assume you both have goals to become professional video game developers and make a career of this. But let's say even if you don't do that, what are some things that you've learned throughout this whole process that you think you'll be able to take with you to whatever you do as adults?
I can go ahead and start this one, because I think I've learned a lot of management due to being the team lead for this. I had to do a lot of like management for, not when we were doing the arcade itself. I had to manage 2 different builds of 2 different teams of build teams, and I had to manage one of them very hard, and they did not want to listen at all. So a lot of management.
Getting some real world experience. They don't always want to listen.
No, 100%. It was really, really helpful though.
Yeah, what about you, Nick? What are you going to take with you?
Oh man, I've learned you can do a lot more than you think you can. It's just that it costs your sleep schedule.
Yeah, I imagine the run up to PAX was probably not the best sleep any of you have had in your life. So
Absolutely, not, especially during PAX.
And Ian, one of the really amazing things about this whole process is that all the game assets were done in-house right here at the Skill Center. What skills, and just again, this is a huge question, so pick what you want. What skills did the students have to learn to develop during this phase of the process?
So the arcade project is literally like for every class involved, the culmination of all of the lessons and practice, summatives, formatives, all of that stuff that we do as teachers to get them at a level where they understand and are ready to work on something almost independently. Because in the arcade project, us teachers take on a supervisory role more than anything. And we're just making sure that, like, for aerospace composites and machining, that pretty much like kids don't cut their hands off, or like for
Lower bar.
Exactly. But like for us too, for IT and cybersecurity and for video game development, like we're just kind of making sure that nothing comes crashing down suddenly, and that we're just wary of any looming threats that could get in the way of making sure that this game is done and ready. Sometimes people listen, sometimes they don't. But for the ones that do tend to take our advice, I mean, we've got evidentiary support right here with how the games have turned out. Also, to shout out, Seas of Hydra is the game that Nick and Kale have worked on, but we also ended up bringing what ended up actually being the world's first ever developed asymmetric VR arcade system ever. We couldn't find a reference for it anywhere on the internet. The game's called Leviathan. So shout out to that team, Will and Russell.
Yeah, that's
Thank
amazing.
you
Yeah, rare you can say that about anything video game related, because I mean, everything's pretty well tread at this point.
Yes.
But let's talk a little bit about Seas of Hydra. One of you, can you kind of explain what the game is? What's the point of the game for non-gamers out there?
I think I can. The game is basically a sort of we went for a relaxing kind of feel of it. So basically, if you were, I guess, having a hard day at work and wanted to relax when you get home, we wanted it to go for that. Or if you wanted to kind of like, if you have kids, let them kind of calm down, play that kind of game. This kind of game. It's supposed to be a fishing, 2D fishing game, pretty basic, where your main goal is to keep your turtle fed and make sure, I guess, if you want to survive the days upcoming, you have to fish, sell them to the seagull, and buy turtle feed from the seagull, because the seagull owns a shop, of course. And you feed the turtle to try to survive. There's also upgrades to the fishing line, the fishing reel, the bucket size, as well as a light so you can see deeper down, or when it's at nighttime.
Awesome. So, Nick, if someone wanted to play this game, how would they go about doing that?
All right. Well, link in the description.
We will have a link in the description, so check that.
Sweet.
So, if you want to get the game, it's on Steam. I think it's still on sale. It's $5 if you can catch the sale, but if not, it's $7. It's fine. But the reason it's going up is because we're also just adding features. We're still working on the game.
Yeah.
We're adding a little more features. We added achievements, I think, yesterday.
46 achievements.
46 achievements.
Which is a lot.
So
and what's been the reaction from people on Steam? Can you leave reviews? Are people buying it? What's been happening?
There's been a good handful of reviews here. I'm not sure if it's enough to actually give us like a rating exactly, but there's been a good handful of reviews that have been nice, helpful. They do obviously recommend the game, as it's made by high schoolers, and most of them kind of mention that. But they do give a lot of good feedback, and I highly recommend leaving a review. I take any feedback. I'd like to better this game for the consumers, help them, I guess, make it worth their while.
Absolutely. First, leave a review for our podcast. When you're done with that, head over to Seas of Hydra and leave a review there as well. Only positive reviews for the podcast. You can be honest. So, Nick, this is a big question. Where do you see yourself in 10 years? I feel like I'm interviewing you for a job or something, but in a perfect world, everything unfolds the way you want it to. Where are you going to be in 10 years? What are you going to be doing?
10 years is a long time, but for a game developer, what I'm actually thinking is these big game industries, these big game developers, all of them, they don't really have the visions that I do. They just make things that are popular to get a bunch of money. But I think video games are an art form. They can tell stories better than maybe better than a movie because you have a part in the world. I want to make games for myself rather than for the money.
A purist. We love that.
Of course.
It's so essential in this art form because it really, I appreciate all the AAA partners that we've developed with 343, with Ubisoft, with Marvel. I appreciate all those connections, but there is this sense that in the AAA space, the profit margin is the driver behind a lot of the content that comes out. There's still some risks at that high budget level, but really the creativity is just flush in the indie scene. And so that's kind of where I've started to lean when I set my kids up for the kind of games that they want to make. And then especially going to PAX, that's the scene they're really starting to embrace. So we kind of fit right in there. But yeah, I really want my kids to just take creativity to the extreme and just not worry about that dollar for now. They have that comfort and ability to release this game without having to spend any money on, well, except for the $100 Steam fee.
I spent money for this. It was my decision.
But you make it up pretty quickly, apparently.
Oh, yeah.
So I want my kids to feel like it's safe to just creatively throw everything at the wall, see what sticks, and put it out. And that's honest. That's real art. That's honest work. And that's really what we want more in the industry. We at the Skills Center, as a whole, are all about just enabling students to enter career paths that usually seem pretty daunting and expensive to jump into. And video game development, especially, for a long time, we've kind of been this program that's just there. Mm-hmm. And we send kids to colleges, DigiPen, AIE, or local community colleges even. But so few of my students end up actually going down the career path that we kind of set them up for because there's just not a whole lot of opportunities. So we've just decided to start making our own. And that's really what I think is important. And I hope a lot more exploratory high school programs with good resources like we have, I hope they take those risks and opportunities for their students too, and give them sort of a platform and ability to create their own way into an industry if there is not one that exists already that they can take.
You're in a kind of a unique vantage here because the director of the Skill Center, Scott Martin, comes from the video game industry. A lot of people don't know this, but he actually sold a video game in his younger life for, I think with his team, I want to say $1 million. So I would assume he was very supportive in this endeavor.
He understood when we were at that meeting in October last year, he understood at that meeting as soon as I said, let's go to PAX, he was like, okay, yeah. That makes sense. And so it was nice. I mean, our previous Skill Center director, Michelle Ledbetter, has been equally supportive, even though she didn't necessarily come from industry. Any sort of big venture or big risk that we tried to take, like when we included culinary in our arcade nights previously, she was like, yeah, let's do it. So I've never really had a problem. Thankfully, I'm so fortunate with the teams that we've had here in our administration and also other teachers here just being very supportive of what we do. It was pretty easy to get admin to buy into this because I think they also saw the potential of getting the kids exposed to the larger industry as this isn't something that we've done before in the game space.
What an amazing experience. That's
really
so awesome. You guys were able to do that. And I'm going to assume that you're shooting to do it again next year.
So yeah, we're already in talks with our administration to get those ideas spinning because, like I said, we went to set up at PAX back at the end of August, and we were like, oh my God, there's so much we didn't even think about having to plan for. We know all that stuff now, and we're incorporating those elements into the arcade project so that the students actually are doing more of the preparation. We're going to be talking with our new pre-electrical program and our construction trades program to potentially involve them in setting up some set dressing and just electrical support for the booth and how we would actually make it look like a real, well put together experience next PAX. So we're definitely in the throes of planning that.
And thank you again to our amazing guest this week, Pierce County Skill Center video game development teacher Ian Lewis, along with his two students, Nick and Kale. Remember, head over to Steam now, buy Seas of Hydra and Limeviathan, support these students, and check out some awesome games. Doug and I will be back next week. See you then.